Hey there, Alicia Cologne here, paper illustrator and your creative guide in creating this really fun hot air balloon paper craft. Now, you can either hang it when you're done or you can have it sit on your bookshelf or your mantle. So you probably noticed right off the bat that your kit is a different color than this, and that's okay. This tutorial will cover all color patterns. Now what's important is the shape of the pieces. So as we move forward, I'll be sure to point out the shape of the pieces, okay? Now with that settled, what else do we need? Well, we're gonna need a tacky glue like this one. You can find this at Unstationary or any of your local craft stores. On top of that, I definitely recommend a craft rag. You're gonna need this to get the glue off your fingers and off your space because you don't want it on your kit, right? Okay, now with the gear and the supplies all settled, what else do we need to know? Well, let's talk about the tutorial. This tutorial is meant to be paused. I suggest that you watch it or re-watch a segment before you complete the action. So watch a segment, pause it, and then complete the action and come back to me and let's keep the process going. All right, now you can definitely do this in one sitting, but you can also do this over the course of multiple days. Completely up to you. Your pace is your own. All right, guys, I think we got everything figured out. You ready? Let's go. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is get our kit out of the bag. Now you don't have to rip it. I just, whenever I close them for you guys, it's just, you know, a simple little zipper tie. And when you get everything out here, the big thing that you guys need to make sure that you don't forget is this little plastic bag with your clasp. That's gonna be very important, okay? And the first thing that I like to do is I like to go ahead and kind of sort things by shape with this specific one. So all the ones that are kind of shaped the same are going to go here. All right, I know this is going to go over here. So this is all kind of similar shapes, Okay. All right, so I have all of my stuff in similar shapes. So the first thing that we're gonna need to do is that when we look through here, you guys can see that there are some indents, all right? We call those score lines, and score lines are gonna be very important for us. It's gonna show us where we need to bend. But as we're looking through our pieces, we notice that one has a circle at the top, and we need to find the other one that has a circle as well. All right, once you have those two, go ahead and let's bend them at the score marks, okay? So you see the score marks, and what you guys are gonna do is that you're gonna actually bend it away from you, okay? I already have some glue on me and I haven't even started. Now, if you guys have your glue, now is the time to make sure that it's pointed downward if you're using this really thick glue, which I am. So if you have a cup, you guys can use that to hold it, but you're gonna want that glue on the bottom because it's just gonna speed things up. And so notice I'm just bending everything, even the bottom ones if you have it. Actually, that's gonna point out. Okay, sweet. So the next thing that we're gonna do is that we're going to put the clasp on top. All right, so let me show you guys that. So let's get your rubber band. Okay, we'll go ahead and get that out. You have a rubber band and you have a little bit of a clasp, and that is going to be really helpful. Let me get it out. Almost. There we go. That's a lot easier. Okay, so because the hot air balloon can be hung or it can just kind of stand if you want it to stand. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread this through first hole and then the second hole. And when I do this, you notice that I have one, the tabs are going to the right, and the other one, the tabs are going to go to the left-hand side. You don't want the tabs to be pointing the same way. So make sure that your tabs are pointing opposite of each other, okay? All right, and so once you have it threaded, like I do, there we go, and I gotta make sure that my tabs are pointing the correct way. All right, I'm gonna just pinch this with my finger and I'm gonna get the clasp And what I want to do is I want to hook one side, and then I'm going to hook, all right, so see how that's hooked. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hook the other one. Okay, and now with that done, you can see now where we have the clasp where we're going to go and we're going to hang things if we want it. So that's really cool. All right, so that bending action that we did with these first two, we're going to go ahead and do that with the rest of the body of the balloon. All right, so you guys go ahead and bend, and I will see you guys in a minute. Okay, welcome back. So now that you guys have everything bent, you probably also realize that the bottoms here change, right? You have a circle, then you have this like box tab, circle, and box tab, right? And you see that here as well. You also see that you have like 3 different pairs of colors. You have yellow, you have red, orange, and then I have blue. Now you might have a different color pattern than I do, but you can still see that you have 3 pairs of colors, okay? Now you can do this in many different ways because we're about to move into the glue pattern. So we can glue things. We can do all of our orange and then all of our blue, and you guys can see how that's going to go. Or you can alternate. You can do yellow, orange, blue, and then yellow, orange, blue. You see what I'm saying? So because here's the thing is that this is going to be on either side, and you're going to have 2 pieces on the right and on the left. All right. So you could have all blue here and all orange here, or you can alternate like I was saying, yellow, orange, blue, yellow, orange, blue. The only thing is though, so you're thinking about color and that's really cool, but I want to draw your attention back to these ends. These ends have to alternate in an A-B pattern, right? So if I start here with this circular, then that means I need to go with the box tab. And no matter what color I pick thereafter, I need to make sure that it is a circular pattern, all right? So circle, box tab, circle, box tab, then circle, box tab. So this is the pattern that I'm going to be going in. Again, circle, box tab, circle, box tab, because this is 1 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, circle, box tab. All right, and so this is a pair, okay? All right, so now that we've gotten that situated, and if you need to pause, go ahead and do that. But now that we got that situated, we're going to go ahead and start gluing. And what I like to do is I always like to have an anchor first before I glue the rest of these on. Now, if you guys are new to Papercraft, what I would suggest you guys do before you put glue on is just putting it on together and kind of seeing, I still have some like purple paint for a previous project. So anyway, if you guys see that, just kind of practicing it, putting it on and placing it and seeing how it's going to lay before you put the glue on. Because once you put the glue on, you're committed, okay? So a lot of times, if you're really new at this, I definitely recommend you practicing placing it and holding it. Like how would you hold it to make sure that the glue sticks on there, you know? So I'm putting pressure on both sides. I'm kind of using the meat of my thumb here to stop it from sliding further than I want it to. So quite literally, I'm thinking those things through. All right, so now that I'm ready to put glue on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue up all, like pretty much up all on this line here. And I'm going to actually pay more attention to closer to the line to not closer to the line. Because if I just put glue over here and I forget the line, then you're going to have a gap. And I really like to have it sealed. All right, and so how I do this is I quite literally smudge it and I slide it into place. And I'm just going to hold this for a second to allow this to cure, to dry, before I add my second one. Now, depending upon what glue you're going to use, it might be faster or slower than what I'm going. what pace I'm going, okay? So again, you guys already know this from the intro, but I'm using the Eileen's Fast Grab Tacky Glue, and it allows me to go at a pretty good clip. However, if you guys are using Elmer's glue, that will work too, but it will take a long time for you to dry. So don't think that it's not working. Don't think that you can't use it, or because you can. It's just going to take a while for you to dry. So instead of a 30 to 45 minute craft, this might end up being an hour to 2 hour craft, which is not a bad thing. Okay, so notice I went ahead and added glue to my second one. And I have my craft rag here, so you see that I'm using my finger, right? Getting pretty much any of the excess glue off or thinning the glue. And so that means I'm getting a little bit of traces of glue on my finger that you guys can see there. And I like just to wipe that off on my craft rag because it's coarse and allows me to get the glue off my fingers without introducing glue or water, and that's really, really important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and expedite this a little bit and do 2 at the same time. So again, notice I go a little bit over and then I kind of drag it. And what that does is that spreads that glue again to that part of the edge, that tab that I didn't put the glue. It thins it out and it makes it not wrinkle. Because, I mean, we are using a cardstock here, but it's not the thickest cardstock. There's definitely thicker cardstocks out there. So you can put too much glue and make it wrinkle. So it's really good to kind of thin things out if you can. Okay, there you go. You have your first one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do the second one with you. And then actually, I'm going to do the second and the third one with you because I want you guys to see how this goes. So I'm going to go ahead and do the blue one. Now again, I'm looking at my tabs, making sure that I have an AB pattern, and I do. I'm going to go ahead and exactly what I did last time. I'm going to glue the anchor down first, and then once that cures, I can go ahead and move to the rest of them pretty quickly. Okay, so again, I'm going to kind of slide it over. Nice. And sometimes it's easier just to do it too on the, like, to push and to pull and to mold. I'm doing it in the air so you guys can see what I'm doing. But quite literally, when we're working on something like this, using the table and looking here just to make sure that it's flat, that it's flush, works really, really well. But I want you guys to see what I'm doing, so I'm trying to stay away from the table. Okay, so now that's glued. I'm gonna go ahead, oops. Thank you, craft rag. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on the edges. So notice I'm just putting glue on the edges. That got a little bit close for me, and this is a lot right here. So I'm just quite literally just cleaning it off. Okay, I mean, it's not a lot. And then I'm going to drag, just so you guys can see, drag and push. I'm gonna take it, drag and push, and then I'm gonna drag and push. All right, and so that's how quick it is using the table, if you guys have that available to you. And that is a pretty clean seam. And I really like using the table. Now notice though, you're gonna have to like rock it a little bit because this is a curved edge. This isn't just, I mean, it is flat, but it's flat in segments, right? So you are gonna have to curve it or rock it as you go. All right, so now it should be time to go ahead and glue your panel that A has a box tab and B has your hole in it. Now, here's the thing is that if you notice that your tabs are facing the wrong way here, it's because you put your tabs, instead of putting your tabs to the left and to the right, you had them pointing in the same direction. So before you glue them, undo this and fix that, because you want to make sure that all your tabs are pointing to the right when you're going around the hot air balloon, okay? So now with that said, I'm going to go ahead and glue this. I'm going to get that anchor situated. Okay. And once that's good, I can tell I need to pull this one down just a hair because you want to make sure that these lines line up, and you see how my line is a little up high. That's going to be a little problematic, so I'm trying to push it down a little bit, but I think at this point it's glued, so we're just going to run with it. All right, so I bent mine backwards. All right, it's going to be pretty quick. Pushing it to the side. Notice that I'm rocking it so I can make sure that it's flat. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see. So notice that I'm pushing it until the blue meets that yellow. Okay. All right, and we have one more, actually we have two left to put on. So we have, now again, if I'm going faster than you, feel free to pause. You don't have to keep up. This is not a marathon. Okay, so we have the box tab here. So the next one we need is definitely the circle tab. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna push this over to make sure that this tippy top is exposed. Again, I'm just gonna do this top. All right, and I got a little bit of glue in my hand, so I'm going to go ahead and use my rag to clean it up. Okay. Okay, and now with that fastened, I'm going to go ahead and bend that one up just like I did last time. A lot easier, and it doesn't damage it whatsoever. I'm putting glue close to that line again. Okay. Again, I'm going to use the table because it just makes, oh look, I'm getting a little bit of glue on the table, so make sure that you clean that up once you see it, or it's going to create a mess, and you don't want glue on the outside. You only want glue where you want to stay. So I know it's hard to see, but essentially I'm just pushing, and if I go over the line, I try to pull it back. All right. Okay, now it's going to get a little bit hard when we're doing our last one. So just so you know, gluing it here is actually not going to be that hard. It's pretty much the same. Now, if you guys have glue on your space, use your craft rag to clean it up. If you have fingers, well, you have fingers, but if you have like glue on your fingers, you know, you just want to take a break every once in a while and make sure that you just take all that stuff off. Again, I just love that works so nicely. Okay. So now we're going to push this out. All right, so just gluing that. And remember, slide it down, trying to make these bottom lines here line up. Okay. And then, once you have that, again, you can fold that back. That's not a problem. And then add your glue. It's really fun to see how quickly this comes together, and you start seeing the shape. Oh, I got a little glue on my fingers. All right, so again, I'm going to go on the table. No, it's hard. It's hard for me to do this and try to instruct you guys at the same time, but I can do it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna hold it with my left hand. There you go. And I'm gonna add the counter pressure via my left hand. That's a good practice too, and I'm gonna have to redo that. Okay, there he goes. Because you're gonna need to use both hands. You're gonna need to use both hands anyway on the next one. Okay. So again, I'm just adding the counter pressure. I have my finger here on the inside, and I'm using the counter pressure. There we go. So I have that in. I'm just tightening up those seams. Now, if you took too long and it didn't grab, really easy just to add that glue back. Okay. Okay. All right, now with that said, we're gonna go ahead and do this last bit of tabs. But again, as you can imagine, it's gonna be a little bit harder, but you are gonna have to use your hands. And so what you guys, let me see if I can show you here, is that I'm using this hand that's inside, and I'm putting my finger underneath the edge of here, and I am pushing down with my right pointer finger. And we're gonna essentially do that every step of the way, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get going. So I'm holding this so the blue tab is on top. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just wanna make sure that this is nice and sturdy and strongly fastened before I move on. So I'm just gonna hold it for a second. And the thing that I love about paper crafts are generally there's always a front and the back, and you can pick what the front and the back is, right? And so if you end up doing this and you don't necessarily like the way that it looks, whenever we do our other pieces that we have to put together or assemble, you can just make sure that those seams, because there's going to be seams, that those seams are going to point towards the back. It's kind of nice. Okay, so we're going to do this slowly. Again, the last one is always a little bit harder, as you can imagine. Okay, and again, I'm using my thumb to kind of push this out here. Just doing one at a time. Okay, and then just gonna put a little bit of gap. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to weaken what I just did, right? And then there you go. So I'm gonna pull that down as much as possible, and I'm just going to hold it. There you go. And so now you guys have a very fun hot air balloon top, okay? And the pattern should be, you know, circle, box tab, circle, box tab, circle, box tab, okay? Now, you guys don't necessarily need to do this right now, but I would just go ahead and all your circle tabs are going to be pushed out and all your box tabs are going to be pushed in, okay? So I'll repeat that. All your circle tabs are pushed out. All your box tabs are pushed in. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a decoration here. Okay, so again, if you have glue on your hands, kind of like I do, I'm going to go ahead and clean my fingers off because I want the final piece to be cute. Okay, so we have our banners, and our banners are meant to go in the middle of this. I guess this is the first, this would be considered the second. All right, so in the middle. And so what I like to do is I'm going to put a wee bit of glue, like a little tiny dot. And right there and right there. All right. And while that's like gluing, you know, and you want to kind of eyeball it. All right. And while that's gluing, you can go actually flip that over. I like how it looks like a mustache. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Over here. Remember, trying to keep the same height if you can, because they are going to meet up. Again, just eyeball it. Okay. All right, so there you go. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to have these guys meet in the middle, like that. All right, and so what we can do is that we can pull them a little bit. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little glue here on this guy. Just a wee dab. And even like just using whatever residual glue that's already on your tip should generally be enough. All right, and I'm going to pull it. Now when you pull it to meet, you should see this rise, this tension. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And I'm going to try to put them right on top of each other. Come here. Now, you don't need tweezers, but I sometimes really like the precision that tweezers give me. Okay, so there you go. You have one side done. So we're going to go ahead now do the same thing for the other side. So little tiny guy here and little tiny guy here. Gonna pull and hold it for a second. And then I'm gonna just put this on top. There we go. Very nice. Okay. And there you guys got the ribbons. Now, sometimes some people don't like the banners, so they don't want to put the banners on there, and that is completely a-okay. This is yours. All right. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to put that aside. It's cool that we have that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to work now on the stand. Okay. So the next thing that you guys need to get is this piece. All right. And you guys will notice that if you put it on top of each other, just so, you can see that everything lines up except for the tab, right? And that's because what we're doing is that we're doubling this up to strengthen it. This is a big supportive piece, and so therefore it needs extra strength. So go ahead and get your glue. And you guys kind of notice that I'm just like putting a little bit of glue in between here, just a tiny, 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 tiny bit. Okay, and I'm not putting any glue where the tab is. So if you guys look closely, you can see that there are some indents here, okay? That's actually the terminal of your tab, meaning that's the end of your tab and where the piece begins, okay? So when we lay this on top, it should start at the beginning of the piece. All right. You see how when I put that up there, everything kind of lines up just a hair? Now it might be off just a tiny bit, but use the windows as your guide. And then I want you guys to like push that down. And what we're gonna do, because we're gonna need to bend this, we're gonna let it dry. Because if we try to bend it now, it's only gonna curl, it's gonna slide. So we let our glue dry before we try to bend anything, okay? All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do, however, is that we're gonna go ahead and work on our post, okay, in our baskets, because it's very much a similar kind of thing that we're doing here. So this is going to be the post in the middle of the basket, and this is your basket, and these are the weavings of your basket, which we'll do here in a second. But what I want you guys to do is to find this piece and go ahead with 2 fingers, and I want you guys to curl it out. All right, and so you guys do this often with Christmas, with ribbon, with scissors, you know, and pretty much it's stretching the fibers, and that's really nice. All right, and so what we're gonna do is, if you guys notice, again, we have tabs. I have glue on my finger. We have tabs right here, or like indents at the end of the tab that tells us or reveals the beginning of the piece. So this again is like the transition line between the tab and the piece. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to round this out. But when you round this out, I want you to line up the end of the piece with the beginning of the piece, using that indent as a guide. All right, you see how that goes? Now there is a little bit of a gap in the one that I'm doing right now, but it's kind of actually hard to line it up perfectly without glue, because that glue gives us the friction that we need in order for it to stay. So that's how we're going to do it. So again, if that was a little hard, practice it before you put your glue on, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my glue on. And then I'm going to line it up. Okay. Again, I can shift and mold the piece as I need to, but it should be really flush on either side. All right, see how flush that is? Now you guys are, if you're looking down, you'll see the gap, but if you're looking straight on, you don't see the gap. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pause here, and once you guys get this and this is glued and cured, you guys just come right back to me, okay? Okay, so our pole is done, and this has probably had plenty of time to cure or dry. So what we're gonna do now is that we are going to, with this part being on the outside, we're gonna go ahead and the same thing that we did last time, we're gonna train it with our fingers. We're gonna stretch the fibers out, both sides, and then we are going to glue, and you make sure that, again, the end of your piece is going to meet up with the beginning of your piece, indicated by that line. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on this tab. Now this tab is a little funky looking, and that's largely because I didn't want the tab to show through these little windows here. All right, so again, I just stuck it on there, and now I'm going to like mold it and stretch it where I want it to go. Or not really stretch it, but like scoot it. All right, and then once I have that line, I'm gonna hold it really, really firm. Now you guys, remember what I was talking about earlier about seams? You're gonna have seams. So we have the back of this seam, we're gonna have the back of this pole. So when we're putting these things together, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're lining the seams up, okay? All right, so while you're doing this and you're holding it together with one hand, these sawtooth combs or shutter tabs, but we're gonna call them sawtooth combs for us, we're gonna go ahead and push those inward like that, all right? And then what we're gonna do is that we're going to put glue on the inside of those tabs, and we're going to push this part through, and we're going to grab it. Now, here's the thing, is that if you made this too short or too long by not following the indent of that tab, it's going to be very obvious here, all right? But notice that mine fits in quite nicely, all right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to take my glue, and gluing the tabs on the outside of the circle or underneath the circle allows us to use the circle as a structural guide for the roundness of this burner, which is what this is replicating. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put it on the table. I'm gonna slide it in there like that. And I accidentally pushed it a little bit too hard, so we're gonna do that again. So go ahead and I'm gonna make sure that my tabs are tucked in. I'm going to get the glue off the table. I'm going to do that again. All right. So, and then I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to go all the way around, applying that pressure to make sure that the tabs are good and adhered. Now, if it's curving up on the sides, it's fine. You just generally want that space, that shape, okay? So the next thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna go ahead and with these sawtooth combs, we're gonna go ahead and pull, those are gonna go in and these are gonna go in. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and actually pull those out. Just wanted to show you how they went. And what we're gonna do is that we're gonna actually glue this in the middle of that, okay? So go ahead and put glue. Now, when you're doing this, I mean, I would even put glue on the edge here, but I wouldn't really worry so much about putting glue on the inside of these tabs because oftentimes those tabs will actually just not even be adhered. What's gonna happen is that they're gonna like curl up. So it's really not that big of a deal. All right, so again, make sure you look at where your seams are and you're gonna want your seams to be both in the back. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the middle of those other sawtooth combs and I'm gonna twist just to make sure that I'm kind of spreading that glue and thinning it out. And then I'm going to apply counterbalance, or not counterbalance, counter pressure, making sure that that sticks really good. All right, so now we have that done. We're going to move on to the next part. Now, if any part of your tabs are over here and it's not staying, of your double like burner that you did, feel free just to add that glue. Okay, so now we're going to take this hexagon piece and we're going to quite literally lay it on top right here. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to put glue on these tabs and we're going to pull them out like that. And we're just going to keep going all the way around. Okay? So, and this time I am going to put the glue on the edges or on the all the way at the bottom because I'm going to physically make sure that they are all the way down. So I like to do it from opposite sides, really trying to make sure that this is going all the way to the burner. All right, now I have that one down. I'm going to have this one down. All right. And then we have these two that are left. All right, and then once I have that down, I'm gonna go ahead and use the table again as my counterbalance because I just wanna make sure that that is nice and adhered. And now you guys pretty much know what's gonna happen, maybe, is that these box tabs is what we're going to glue this to. How cool is that? But we're gonna wait for that, okay? We're gonna chill out on that. Let's go ahead and look at our fun basket. All right, so if you guys just noticed, I could tell that there are still some paper left in the little cut, so you guys might wanna clean that out. All right, and then you can see a couple of different things that are indicators as to what's gonna happen. We have our tabs in the bottom, right? So you know that that's definitely going to adhere to something, and you're right, it's gonna adhere to this circle, okay? You see indents, so you know where the box tab ends and where the piece begins, and you also know that you're gonna have to line that up, okay? So those are gonna be things that we're gonna have to do, but first you know that you have to do something with these little tiny pieces. And what that is that is for our weaving. Now, we have one thick rectangle and we have 4 thinner rectangles, okay? And so what we're gonna do is that we're gonna actually glue this guy on last, and we're gonna go ahead and focus on these. Now, whatever pattern you want to do is completely and utterly up to you, all right? So if you wanna go, you know, blue, orange, blue, or you want the yellow in the middle like that, you know, that's completely up to you. That's actually what pattern I'm going to use today. And I'm going to go ahead, and I know that this starts. So what I like to do is I put it within, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I'm going to bend it back. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to want that to just glue there. Okay, so I want yellow next, so I'm going to go ahead and put yellow in there. So again, I'm going to push it all the way through to make sure to like, okay, this is where it lines up with the yellow. Hold this between my fingers, pinch it back so I can put glue here. Okay. Now, for me, blue is next. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bend that back. Okay. All right, and then we're going to do the orange one. Okay. So, same thing. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we are going to weave, which is really fun. All right, so there's a couple of different ways that you guys can weave, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you both of the different ways on this yellow piece because I think it'll be a lot easier for you to see. And then from there, I'm just going to let you guys have at, and you just go and you just do. So the first thing, one way that you can do it, or the first way, is quite literally you're just going to go up and down like this. All right, and then now notice that I'm just gonna I'm actually gonna pull this not like that, because if I pull it straight out, there's actually an opportunity for me to rip. So I'm gonna go to the front and I'm gonna pull it, and then once it's pulled, I'm gonna pull it back down. You see guys how I did that? So again, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna go straight like that, and that's really easy to do. It's when you're doing this really tight curve back up that you're going to want to pull actually more towards the front and then back down. Now it's going to get a little wrinkled, but that's okay. That actually adds to the character. The next way to do it is if you want to actually kind of bend the basket and slide this through both of them at the same time, you can do that as well. Now, of course, bending the basket like I'm doing is going to create a little bit more texture because I'm wrinkling everything. But I can tell you it's a whole lot faster. All right, and I'm going to show you. So now I've shown you that a couple of times. I'm going to go ahead and show you the other one really quick. Well, actually, I can't really. I'm just going to go ahead and, I mean, I could if I wanted to, but I think we'll do like that. All right, so, and then once you're done, bend it back like you did previously. Put some glue on there. And then go ahead and glue it. All right, now you have the remaining 3. Go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you guys right back here, okay? The basket is looking neat. I love the way that the weaving works out really well. Okay, so everything is glued down. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to glue the top part of this. Okay. So I'm using a little snake, a little zigzag line. And it gets a little bit harder the further away it goes from my hand. Okay, and quite literally, I'm going to kind of just like smear it. There he goes. I'm gonna move it on top. All right, now we have our basket. It looks really, really good. We need to let that dry a little bit. But as you can imagine, we're gonna need to curl it, but you guys probably already did a really good bit, okay? And then we're gonna need to gonna line this up, okay? And so the cool thing is that now we kind of have these little guides here. So while this is covered up a little bit, and I understand that that might be a little bit difficult, but we do have guides in order to make sure that things are straight. So you can make sure that your yellow is in line with your yellow and your blue with your blue, and making sure that you are really, this is really important that you're lined up over here on the bottom, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put glue here. All right, so I went ahead and purposely went over where I had the glue, and now I'm gonna drag down and then drag back up. And I'm doing that to a couple of reasons, but to smear the glue around, to thin it out, right? All right, and I am lined up here, and I'm also lined up with my colors. All right, so making sure that this blue one's not necessarily lined up, but the other three are. And that is good enough for me. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is that we're gonna go ahead and push these little guys in, and you guys have an option here. So let me go ahead and share your option. Now this is the base of the basket, and you can do one of two things. You can either put this on top of the shutter tabs, okay, or the sawtooth combs. So you can do that, and if you do that, then of course you don't see the tabs on the bottom of it. So if you're hanging it up, it's gonna look good because you're not gonna see the tabs. However, you are losing the structural guide that you get if you actually put the circle underneath. All right, so that's kind of up to you. I like to do honestly either. It doesn't really matter. I've had some where, you know, because I know that like it's on a bookshelf and it's just going to stay there. So I'm just going to go ahead and just glue them on top this time and call it a day. Because this piece actually is very, very round. I don't know why it works out like that. Maybe it's the weavings. But it does seems to become more structurally sound. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on these edges. All right, and it definitely seems like there's a lot there. So I'm gonna go ahead and thin it out with my finger, just because I don't want it, I want it to be there, but I don't want it to pull out or seep out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and use my little rag. All right, and now I'm gonna place this on top. Now, while I'm doing this, you notice that, or like right here, I have a little bulge and I have a little bulge here. So I'm quite literally just gonna have to like push them in gently all the way around in order to kind of shape the way that I need it to go. Now, as soon as I have that like somewhat shaped, I'm gonna go ahead and from the bottom, or from the top, or from the inside, I guess is a better way to say it, I'm going to push and pull, or push wherever I see I need to do that. All right, and look, some still seeped out a little bit, but that's fine. But there you go. Pretty clean. Okay. All right, and so the next thing that we're going to do is that I'm going to actually go ahead and glue this in here, because it's going to be a lot easier to do that before we have the balloon on, okay? But again, remember, there's always a seam. So I have a seam of my basket and I have a seam of my post, and I want to make sure that all of that stuff lines up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put glue again more towards the outer part of these tabs, and then on the edges. The good thing is that you guys, they're not going to see inside this basket. It's just too narrow. So I'm gonna line this up. I'm gonna try to make sure that it's in the center, all right, visually. And I'm just gonna twist it a little bit. I'm just gonna hold it. Now you don't wanna push it down too much or it's gonna like, I mean you do, but not like that right there. It's this burner part is actually gonna collapse on you. So it's actually way stronger to hold it with this part instead of the top hexagon. Okay. All right, now with that glued, we can go ahead and glue our body onto the hot air balloon. We are so close. All right, so again, pick the side that you don't necessarily like, right? So I can see like, right, we're here with the blue. This was the last one that I did. So I had a little bit of trouble. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this to be the back of mine. And so that means wherever my seam is, I'm gonna definitely want to orient it this way, all right? So there we go. And if you, again, you need to practice a couple of times to figure out where all that's gonna go, you can do that. Okay. Then we got one more piece and we're almost done. So I went ahead and put the glue on the hexagons. You can see that I'm gluing it. I'm pushing it down. And if you guys need to, this is gonna be a lot easier, I can tell you right now. If you do it in your lap or you have something to like help it stand up, like this rag. Because otherwise it's just gonna be sliding around on you. And I like to use these little circle tabs to pull it out if I need to in certain places. Okay, I'm just pushing it down, letting for this to cure. And then the next thing that we're gonna do is that we're gonna do our strings, which I'm really excited about. All right, so I'm gonna lay it over to the side. We're gonna go ahead and take the string and notice that there's a crescent moon on top. Take that, flip it through, making sure you don't see the moon on the outside of the hot air balloon. Glue the very end and then swing that towards the inside and pinch it to secure and fasten the glue. Now it's pretty simple, so repeat that 2 more times and you got yourself a complete hot air balloon. You did it! You put together your craft. Now I know that there was probably a moment or two where you you didn't know if it was gonna come together, but it did. And I'm super proud of you for hanging in there and you did it. And I hope that you're proud of yourself too. And I want to show off your hard work. So if you could send me a picture of your completed craft at Unstationary on Instagram or Facebook or hello@unstationary.store, I would love to share those. Also, if you have any questions or feedback or a request of other fun things to make, feel free to hit me up at hello@unstationary.store. Until next time, friends, happy crafting. Bye.